I'm cutting up half a cup of country ham, almost making country ham bits. I have my skillet nice and hot. Got some canola oil here. Putting half a cup of my diced, ooh, that sizzle, music to my ears. All right, so I'm frying my ham bits till they get nice and crispy. I didn't grow up eating grit balls. I grew up eating grits in a bowl like most people. And as I've gotten older, I've visited several restaurants where grit balls were on the menu or grit cakes. So I took the recipe for a grit cake and just formed it into a ball. Instead of just adding the ham into the grit mixture, I like to fry it up because of the texture. I mean, I like a really crispy bacon and I like really crispy ham. So my ham is nice and crispy. Just gonna let it drain on a paper towel, get some of that grease out of there. Okay, I have about 2 cups of leftover grits from yesterday. Dump it right in the bowl. I'm gonna add the country ham. And this does not need any seasoning, does not need any salt and pepper. Country ham is cured with salt. It is salty. I'm adding about a cup of smoked Gruyere cheese. It's gonna give me a nice little smoky flavor. So all I do is mix it with my hand, just folding in all of my ingredients, and then just gonna form some balls. So I'm gonna dredge these balls. I'm gonna put it in flour, egg, panko breadcrumbs at the end. That's gonna make it super crispy. So when you bite into it, you're gonna get crunchy, and then you're gonna get this ooey gooey soft center. Last one, right? Wash my hands. Dredging station, half a cup of flour, my first station. And to kick it up a notch, I'm gonna add a pinch of cayenne and a few pinches of paprika. 2 eggs. Slightly whisk. And panko in my last bowl. I'm using panko instead of breadcrumbs because panko is a little thicker than breadcrumbs, so it's gonna be super crispy. Roll it in the flour, put it into the egg mixture, strip off any excess egg, coat it in the panko. That's it. I love a good old-fashioned bowl of grits. That's great. But adding cheese or some type of meat to grits, heaven. All right, so my oil is heated nice and hot. It's about 360. I'm gonna drop these in here and fry them until they're nice and golden brown. I'm not cooking anything through because everything is already cooked. I'm just gonna keep moving them around so they get nice and golden brown on every side. No time at all. Ah, there it is. There it is. It's golden brown. Drop my last 4. There we go. Look at that. It's creamy. It's loaded with the country ham. I want to try it. Creamy, smoky from the Gruyere, a little salt from that country ham, super crunchy. Let's see if you can hear it. Ooh! Yes, Lord. That's good. That's real good. I've shredded 3 types of cheese. I have extra sharp cheddar, smoked Gouda, and Colby Jack cheese, all right? So I'm gonna go back here and get my roux started and add my cheese. I am going to heat 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter, 1 tablespoon of flour. All right, so the butter has melted with that flour. I'm gonna add a cup of heavy cream. And I'm just gonna keep stirring until it starts to thicken. All right, now I'm going to add my cheeses. Look at that cheese pool though. Ooh, that's gonna be cheesy. Now I'm gonna add a little salt, a little smoked paprika to complement that smoked Gouda, some dry mustard. I love putting dry mustard in my mac and cheese. It just adds this really nice bite to it. A little freshly cracked black pepper. about a teaspoon of garlic powder, and a little bit of sour cream, just about a half a cup. People always ask me, why do you put sour cream in your mac and cheese? Something about that sour cream just adds this bit of tang to it. It's a nice surprise when you eat the macaroni and cheese, and that's why I love adding it. And it also adds a little creaminess as well. Elbow mac. I'm gonna mix this together. I have a baking dish here that I have greased. I am gonna actually let this hang out in the fridge to set up because I need to scoop it. It needs to be scoopable, so it has to be cold. All right, so my mac and cheese is nice and firm and very scoopable. And I'm gonna set up a dredging station. All right, in one bowl, I'm gonna use some flour. In this bowl, I'm gonna add 3 eggs. In this bowl, I've added some panko that I'm going to lightly season with some pepper, salt, and a little smoked paprika. Give it a mix. All right, so what's gonna happen is, I'm gonna form my ball, coat it in flour, coat it in the eggs, coat it in the panko, do all of them until I'm done, and then fry it until it's nice, crispy, and golden. And this makes about 3 dozen mac and cheese bites. All right, so that's my last mac and cheese bite. I have some vegetable oil heated to 350 degrees. I'm going to fry these in batches until they are golden brown. And I'm using a Dutch oven. I filled it just enough to cover. Just fill it up about 3/4 of the way. All right, my first batch is in. Mac and cheese bites are done. Look at that beautiful golden brown color. Pretty sure it's nice and cheesy on the inside. Let those cool off for a bit. I'm gonna add my second batch. Because the oil is really hot now, that second batch is not gonna take as long to cook, so just keep a watchful eye on it. If you have a smaller pot, it may take 2 to 3 batches. I think they've cooled off a bit. Ooh, look how cheesy and creamy that is. Let's try. Oh man. It's cheesy, it's crunchy. Ooh, that's delicious. So today we're making cheesy hash brown casserole. It's loaded with hash browns, cheddar, and sour cream. It makes the perfect cheesy, creamy bite. It's so easy to make because it's just a dump, stir, and bake. All right, so before we get started, let's thaw out a 16-ounce bag of hash browns, preheat your oven to 400 degrees, and butter a 9x9 casserole dish. All right, let's get started. Let's shred 1 8-ounce block of sharp cheddar cheese. I love this hash brown casserole because it's super simple to make and it's extremely savory, and it goes well with any breakfast dish. I even eat it for dinner. Casseroles in the South go hand in hand. Buttery, cheesy, well seasoned. Push your cheese to the side and let's grate 1 medium yellow onion. Cut off your root. Discard. Use your box shredder to grate your onion. Be careful not to get those hands. All right. Scoot your onions to the side. Let's chop a 1/4 cup of chives. All right, guys, we are working with double onions. Chives are not, of course, is not as oniony as a medium yellow onion. Chives just add an additional oniony flavor to it. And a chive, of course, is a milder onion flavor. All right, so let's reserve a little bit of our chives for the garnish and reserve about a 1/2 cup of your cheddar cheese for the topping. Okay, we're gonna put the rest in the bowl. Okay. Let's clean up our cutting board. To the bowl, let's add our 16-ounce bag of boiled hash browns. Let's add a half a cup of sour cream. A 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. 1½ teaspoons of sweet paprika. A little heat from the cayenne and a little smokiness from the sweet paprika. A heavy pinch of kosher salt, 2 pinches. And a heavy pinch of cracked black pepper. Okay. Let's add 1 egg. A casserole wouldn't be a casserole without an egg. Let's give it a mix. And that's it. That's all the ingredients that go into this cheesy hash brown casserole. So simple, but the flavors are going to be incredible. And if you want, you can also add a little meat to this. I suggest using some country ham. You can use breakfast sausage, you can use ham, you can use bacon. I mean, it's the ultimate breakfast casserole. This is mixed up. Let's pour our mixture into a 9x9 casserole dish that has been buttered. The reason we buttered our 9x9 casserole dish is to make sure that, of course, it doesn't stick, but it also gives our cheesy hash brown casserole crispy edges. I love crispy edges. As a matter of fact, I only eat the edges. Let's add our reserved half a cup of cheddar cheese. Spread it evenly across. All right, that's it. Let's head over to the oven. All right, let's pop this into our oven that's preheated to 400 degrees. Hit pause and meet me back here in 45 minutes. All right, it's been 45 minutes. Let's take our casserole out of the oven. Ooh, look at that. Cheesy and golden brown. All right, let this cool for 5 minutes. Hit pause and meet me back here. We're gonna try our cheesy hash brown casserole together. All right, I am ready to try this. I know you are too. You can cut them into slices if you're serving it for your family, but it's just me right now, so I'm gonna cut a generous slice for myself. Oh, look at that. Okay. Add a little sour cream on top, dollop, and top it off with more chives. Oh, let's give it a taste. Oh, that's incredible. That's good. It's cheesy, it's tangy, it's buttery, it's ooey gooey creamy. This is a comforting Southern dish, and man, oh man, easy to make. I've sliced 3 pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes. Now, if you don't want to slice them yourself and you want them like paper thin, use a mandolin. So I'm going to layer this skillet, my cast iron skillet that I have buttered, greased up, got it nice and oiled. I want to take a few of my sliced potatoes and put them at the bottom. Added about half of my sliced potatoes. I want to add a little salt to the potatoes as well, because potatoes are so bland that you need a little salt to enhance the flavor. So I've added some salt to my sliced potatoes. I'm adding my cheeses. I have some fontina cheese. I got some Gruyere and some white cheddar. You can use whatever cheese that you want that's nice and melty. I'm gonna add the rest of my potatoes. This skillet potatoes is one of my favorite side dishes. The cheesy potatoes just go really well with a nice juicy steak. That or even like baked chicken, like I made earlier. I want to add my final layer of cheese. And I want to top it off with a little chives. Now this is not it, guys. I'm going to make a cream sauce to pour on top. So when I put this in the oven, it's going to get nice and bubbly and creamy and cheesy and delicious. All right, I'm going to head over here to my stove and I'm going to make the cream sauce. I'm going to pour this cream sauce on top of all of this. To my sauce pot, I'm going to add some minced garlic. 2 cups of heavy cream, and I'm gonna grate in some nutmeg. Now, I like adding fresh nutmeg to cream sauces because it adds a little spice to it. A little freshly grated nutmeg goes a long way. And I'm gonna season my cream sauce with a little salt and pepper. All right, I'm just gonna heat this until it gets nice and warm, just kind of like a rolling boil, and see some bubbles on the side and the edges. And not only is this a great side, it's also a great dish to add to your Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter spread, whatever holiday you celebrate, because it's just gonna go well with anything that you pair it with. And I mean, who doesn't love cheese and potatoes? The bubbles have formed around the edges, so I know it's nice and warm. Take it off the heat and add in my sour cream. Now I'm gonna take my cream mixture and pour it on top of my potatoes, shredded cheese. And once this starts to really get going and it starts to bake, all of the cheese and all of the potatoes are gonna get cooked, and it's just gonna start to bubble. And oh my gosh, I am really excited about this. All right, now I'm gonna cover my cast iron. I'm gonna let that bake for 45 minutes at 375. After 45 minutes, I'm gonna take the foil off and let it continue to cook and get nice and brown on top. My cheesy skillet potatoes are done, and it smells amazing in here. I wanna turn the heat down to 350 because I need to bake some brownies. All right, hoo, baby. Oh, baby, look at this. Oh, honey, look at that. Look how gorgeous and bubbly and buttery this looks, all in this beautiful skillet. I gotta try this. Oh my gosh. But I'll be, oh my gosh. The potatoes are like literally melting in my mouth. Those three cheeses combined, they're nutty, it's creamy, salty, but not too salty. And the chives, oh my gosh. This is one of those things, like, I promise you it will go well with any entree. You talk about chicken, we talk about red meat, and a good piece of steak. One of my mom's favorite dishes, seafood lasagna. So I've got a container of ricotta cheese here, full fat. I'm gonna add some thawed spinach that I have kind of wrung out, took all the juice out. Got some artichoke hearts. And you can find this in like a jar in your vegetable aisle. I'm gonna add some mozzarella cheese, a little salt, and some breadcrumbs. Growing up, my mom would always make lasagna. That is one of her favorite things to make. And one day she decided to get real fancy and change up the lasagna. And she made a seafood lasagna with Alfredo sauce. And I have been craving that lasagna for a long time now. All right, so I'm mixing my ricotta with my mozzarella cheese. Now I'm gonna add 1 egg. And now I'm going to zest this lemon. So I'm just combining all of my ingredients. Got the ricotta, artichoke hearts, a little mozzarella, an egg, Italian breadcrumbs, and lemon zest. Now I'm gonna cook the seafood for my seafood lasagna. I'm gonna melt a few tablespoons of butter. I'm gonna add 2 pounds of Charleston shrimp, some garlic that I've minced, and a little seafood seasoning. All right, so I'm just gonna cook my shrimp until it turns opaque. It doesn't take shrimp to cook long at all. Woo-hoo! My mom is gonna smell this as soon as she hits that porch. All right, so my shrimp is cooked. I can just eat this bowl of shrimp. So now I have some white wine here. I'm just gonna deglaze my pan. You see all that good seasoning and stuck on garlic that's at the bottom? That's gonna create a really nice essence to the seafood. A little lemon juice. I'm gonna cook this down just a little bit, reduce it by half, and then add in my crab meat. Ooh, that smells great. But you know what else smells good? The shrimp. And grab one. Quality control. This is how I feel about it. I'm gonna add my lump crab meat. Now I'm gonna add my shrimp back into my pan here. Look at that. So I'm gonna turn this off. And now I'm gonna make my bechamel. I'm gonna take unsalted butter, about a half a stick. I'm gonna melt this down and then add in flour. That's gonna help get this sauce nice and thick. So that looks great. Now I'm going to add 3 cups of whole milk. And I'm adding freshly grated nutmeg. Now, this is something that my mom never did. And I found throughout the years that freshly grated nutmeg just warms up the bechamel, and it gives this a little slightly like aromatic flavor. A little goes a long way with freshly grated nutmeg. 1.5 cups of Romano cheese. Romano has that kind of like that nuttiness and saltiness that you get in Parmesan cheese, just a little bit more. And this bechamel is just one of the twists on my mom's seafood lasagna. All right, so my bechamel has thickened. All right, Mom, I'm gonna add a little bit of my bechamel sauce into that ricotta. Did I do that right?
I didn't used to do it that way, but...
I just put a little bit of the bechamel in there because it's gonna help loosen up the ricotta and make it a little bit more spreadable. That's it.
Okay, I can agree with that.
The next thing I remember is you put a little sauce down at the bottom.
Always, and so it won't stick.
So a little bit down at the bottom. They have a new thing, Mom.
What is the new thing, Kardea?
It's ready to bake. You don't have to boil it. So these pasta sheets get nice and soft, like as if you would boil it, just in the oven with heat.
You know what? Even in the stores today, I still go for the ball.
Can you teach an old dog new tricks?
Roof, I guess so.
Put sauce down, spread it all over the noodles. Let's put the ricotta down next.
Looks good so far.
Can you do the honors by adding the seafood mixture?
Sure I can. Don't look over me like your grandma do. You know, that makes you nervous, you know, when we're in the kitchen and you know when your grandma does that.
Oh my gosh,
you can't stand that.
That's not what I do. Well, now I'm gonna get in here like grandma and help you out because
see?
You're not spreading enough for me.
Isn't that something? You're telling
gotta
me
have
my
equal
recipe. Isn't that
You
something?
gotta have equal distribution, Mom. I didn't know how you did. I just know it tasted good. Break it in half. Sauce, the ricotta and spinach and artichoke mixture. I'm repeating those same layers now. All right, Mom, I'm gonna top it off with the last bit of sauce. Can you top it off with the rest of the mozzarella cheese?
Okay.
Nice and even.
Are you telling me? Okay. Isn't that something?
I'm gonna cover my lasagna and bake it at 350 for about 30 minutes and then bake it uncovered for an additional 15 minutes, and that's gonna get it nice and browned, and you're gonna see all those bubbles on the corners.
Oh, I can't wait to see how this comes out. Hopefully it'll come out like it's supposed to.
Or better.
Really? Ooh, that looks good.
All right, it's getting there. We need some bubble and some brown. That's why you gotta take the top off. All right, Ma, you wanna see?
Yes,
You wanna
let's
see?
Let's see what it looks like.
Let's see if it looks like yours. We gotta wait to see if it tastes like yours, though.
Okay.
Ooh, look.
Oh, now it's bubbling.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, look at this, cousins.
Oh, that's pretty.
Look at that. Okay, Ma, now I have to top it off with some more parsley. A little color, a little herbiness.
Ooh.
All right, Ma, let's dig in.
Ooh, yes. Oh, that looks so good,
It's
Kardea.
cheesy.
There it is, there it is. Ooh, that looks good. Oh, that looks good.
Oh, yeah. Let's see if this stands up to your recipe.
I'll see. Oh, that's good.
All right, I got a flat top here. I wanna douse it with a little bit of oil. I'm gonna add some onions. I have about 2 large onions sliced here. I'm gonna cook these onions down before I add my meat. I wanna also season my onions. Add a little Worcestershire sauce, give it a smoky steakhouse flavor. Some soy sauce. While this cooks down, I gotta season my crab meat and make my sauce. I have about 1 pound of lump crab meat. I'm gonna add seafood seasoning to this. For the most part, I'm gonna cook down that shaved beef with the onions, and right before I put it inside the bread, I'm gonna fold in this crab meat, keeping it whole, so when you bite into this sandwich, you're gonna get big chunks of juicy beef with sweet chunks of crab meat. Oh yeah. Is your mouth watering yet? That's the point. As if this cheesesteak isn't already amazing with that beef and crab meat, gotta make a special sauce to go on top of it. I mean, this thing is flavorful. I've got some mayo here. The great thing about making sauces from scratch, you eyeball it. You taste it and add and take away whatever as you go. All right, this sauce is it's a variation of this sauce that I make all the time. It's called Have Mercy sauce. It's a pretty simple sauce. So I put in a little hot sauce. I'm gonna add some Dijon mustard. Gives it a little tang, that's what I like to say. Some salt and pepper. And I'm going to give it a little taste to see if I need to add anything. I'm ready for this tailgate party. It's creamy, it's a little spicy, it's a little tangy. That's good. All right, so just gonna funnel this in my little squeeze bottle here. So I wanna squirt it on top. My onions are starting to cook down. What I like to do is just to sweat them out a little bit more, is add some water. Mixing them around, heat down a little bit. All right, now I'm gonna add in some shaved beef. Sometimes they have this pre-packaged, but if not, you just go to your butcher and ask them to basically shave some beef for you. Turn my heat back up. I'm excited about this. I have eaten my fair share of cheesesteaks and I enjoy making them at home. All right, I'm gonna add a little soy sauce. Just a little squirts of that. I'm gonna switch over now because I know better. I'm gonna use my spat. You ever been to a cheesesteak place? You always hear this iconic, you know they're doing something magical back there. So I'm only cooking the beef until I don't see any more pink. All right, what I like to do is add some cherry peppers. I love cherry peppers. It's a little briny, a little salty, a little vinegary. This would be a great time to add that crab meat. Look at that, y'all. This is gonna make more than enough, and that's okay. I'm gonna send them home with something. Last but not least, add this American cheese on top. Get that melted down. The only way to go is white American. The crab, the cheese, the seasoning, some of that special sauce, my Have Mercy sauce is gonna go on top. Why not top these off? Why not top them off? This one needs a little bit more loving. Got my sauce, just gonna put that right on top. Look at that. Surf and turf cheesesteaks. All right, guys, I got some cheesesteak with crab meat, and it has cheese and a special sauce.
Awesome. Put your foot in this.
Yep, I put my foot in it.
Yeah.
Big toe, pinky toe, all of them. Lena, what you think about that cheesesteak?
It's good.
I see the smile on your face. Crab mac and cheese. In my backyard, I can walk to my dock and get crabs, shrimp, and if the season is right, I get some fish too. You're gonna get out of here. You can't get any better than that. So I boiled the crabs for about 10 minutes, picked the meat, and now I'm gonna saute it. Putting in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm gonna add onions and garlic to this. Look at that. And I'm going to saute this for a few minutes until the onions get translucent. Your house is going to smell amazing. So when the garlic and onion have wilted down and become translucent, I'm gonna add in the crab meat, and you want some of the crab to stick to the pan as well. But this thing is so cool. When you're eating the macaroni and cheese and you get that big lump of crab meat, it's like a gift. Now that the crab is ready, and I still got kind of some of that burnt stuff in there that I wanted, I'm going to transfer the crab back into the original bowl that I took it from. And I'm going to use sherry to deglaze the pan, which is just fancy for saying take the good stuff from off the bottom. So I'm going to use about a half a cup. Woo, baby. You're probably thinking like, this is just some fancy mac and cheese you're making here, but it's worth it. I've kind of combined two of my favorite things, Southern macaroni and cheese and low country style seafood salad. I'm gonna start on my roux. 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm gonna let that melt. I'm gonna also add in flour. That's the start of a roux. A roux has butter and flour, or some type of fat and flour. And I'm gonna whisk in 1 tablespoon. The roux is basically the start of a bechamel sauce, which basically is an elevated cheese sauce, okay? And the reason I'm using a whisk is because we don't want lumps in our roux. You see that color? It's everything from the pan, and as you see, we deglazed all of that brown stuff that normally you would think, oh, it's time to wash the pot. Don't you wash that pot. Deglaze it. And use some liquor to deglaze it. So that looks awesome. Now we're gonna add in a pint of heavy cream. We're gonna start building our roux and our cheese sauce. That's good. Now I'm gonna use about 1 cup of regular whole milk, okay? I haven't added the cheese yet, but just the smell of the sherry and the garlic and all of the stuff that was in the pan that was left, oh my goodness. Now I have 4 ounces of shredded Gruyere, Parmesan, and about 8 ounces of shredded extra sharp yellow cheddar. These cheeses just work really, really well together. You get a good funky sharp taste from the Gruyere cheese, and we're gonna leave some sharp cheddar because we're gonna top it with more cheddar. And I'm gonna slide in that Parmesan. Just give it a whisk. 2 teaspoons of dry mustard. Dry mustard just gives us this really great bite. 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika. And the smoked paprika gives it a nice little smoky flavor. I'm gonna also add in salt and pepper. Not only are we getting a bite from the mustard, we're getting a bite from the pepper, and I'm gonna bite into this soon. This is just gonna look awesome when we mix it in with the pasta and the crab meat and then top it with even more cheddar on top. I'm adding in some freshly chopped parsley, thyme, and tarragon. And that's just gonna balance out all of the sharpness. I'm gonna let that cheese sauce simmer. I've already boiled 1 pound of pasta. It's basically just 1 box. And I have drained it. I did reserve about a cup of pasta water. I'm not gonna use the entire cup, but I did save a bit because of the starch. It's gonna help as a binding agent to keep the macaroni and cheese together. I mean, it's still a casserole, so you still have to have some type of structure. I am going to add this glorious cheese sauce directly in the pot with the pasta. Ooh, yes. Just give it a stir. And did you forget about the crab meat? I didn't. We're going to add in the sauteed crab meat with the onions and garlic. OMG. If I could, I would just eat it right out of the pot right here. As a matter of fact, I am going to eat it. Listen, I have been starving. I've been at church all day. I need something. Cheese, crab meat, fresh herbs. Oh my goodness. You can't go wrong. I want to add in 4 ounces of cream cheese just to make it a little creamier. Ooh, if your macaroni and cheese doesn't sound like that when you mix it, you've done something wrong. And remember, we had 4 ounces of cheddar we let sit to the side for a very good reason. The cheese, let's give it a nice little crust on top. There we go. That looks delicious. I'm gonna pop it in the oven at 375 for about 10 to 15 minutes or until it gets nice and brown on top.
Is there any more mac and cheese?
My childhood best friend is in town, Kamiko. Before she heads back to New York, I'm making her meat lovers quiche because we both love meat, we both love eggs, and we both love cheese. So I have 1 store-bought pie crust. I'm just gonna mold my crust down into the pan. I have some pie weights here and parchment paper. I like to par-bake my crust first because if I was just to put the eggs and the meat in there right now, that crust wouldn't bake. So I have to bake it first in the oven. The pie weights help the crust stay nice and intact inside the dish. Otherwise, it'll just puff up when you put it in the oven. And I have my oven preheated to 375. My pie crust is gonna be in there for about 10 minutes. So while that goes, I'm gonna get started on my meat. I have 4 slices of bacon here. I'm gonna render it on down. I'm flipping my bacon. While that side cooks, let me take my pie crust out of the oven and take those weights off. I'm gonna pop this back in the oven and let it cook and brown for about 5 more minutes. I think my bacon should be done. I'm not gonna empty this pan. I'm gonna add my country sausage right to the rendered fat from the bacon. Before I take this off the heat, let me grab my pie crust. That's done. All right. Okay. Now I'm gonna build this quiche. I'm gonna cut up some green onions. I have 6 eggs here. I'm gonna add a 1/2 cup of half and half. If you don't have half and half, you can use whole milk. That half and half is gonna get it really nice and fluffy. I'm gonna do a heavy pinch of my house seasoning. Got sweet paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, salt, pepper. I'm gonna add my green onion as well. Give it a whisk. Now I'm gonna grate 4 ounces of white cheddar. And I love using cheddar cheese because it goes really well with the saltiness of all my breakfast sausages. I'm gonna put it right into my egg and green onion mixture. I'm gonna give it another whisk. All right, let's build. I'm gonna put my country ham down, which is basically just smoked ham. Got my strips of bacon here, I'm gonna crumble up. Last but not least, my country breakfast sausage. It smells really good. My stomach is growling. Now just pour the egg and cheese mixture right on top. And this is gonna be incredible. Smooth it out. All right, I'm gonna pop this in there and let it cook for about 20 to 25 minutes or until the eggs are set. I think my meat lover's quiche is ready to come out of the oven. I can tell it's gonna be nice and cheesy, and look at the brown on the crust. That's my favorite part of the quiche, the cheese and the crust. Next thing on the menu is the soul food classic, cream corn casserole. I'm using about 8 ears of corn, fresh corn, that I'm just cutting off the cob. Get all that good corn milk or just that starch that's inside the cob. That's gonna help get that casserole nice and creamy. So an easy way to cut the kernel off the cob is to get a big bowl, then get a smaller bowl, flip the bowl over to where the bottom is exposed, and put your ear of corn on top. And just using a chef's knife, just cut down on the cob. And so to get the milk out of the cob, just take the back of your chef's knife and just gently press down on it. You see all that milk coming out? So what I'm doing here is making my creamed corn. My butter is melted. I'm gonna add my corn. Right now I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of whole milk, a few pinches of salt, a little black pepper. Okay. Now I just need this to cook and kind of thicken up. And you know what? A little extra butter ain't ever hurt nobody. I'm gonna actually add a 1/2 stick of butter to this. I want this to be creamy and cheesy and buttery. Start off with boxed corn muffin mix. I'm adding in 1 cup of sharp shredded cheddar cheese. This entire container of sour cream is gonna add a little tang to it. And 2 eggs. And I'm just whisking it until I see no more streaks of that cornmeal. Okay. Now to add that creamed corn. The consistency of this casserole is gonna be a little crunchy from those fresh kernels of corn, creamy, and it's gonna have a nice layer of brown cheese on top. I have a 9x13 casserole dish here that I've sprayed with some nonstick spray. Pour my mixture right into the casserole dish. And last but not least, I'm gonna top it off with some more cheddar cheese. Okay, My oven is preheated to 350. I'm gonna bake this uncovered for about 35 to 40 minutes, or until the top is nice and bubbly and golden brown. To make these cheesy baked eggs, I'm gonna use mustard greens. Mustard greens don't get a lot of love. Are they bitter? Yes. It has a mustardy taste, and it's really, really peppery. So what the mustard green is gonna do is just gonna give this dish a nice little kick. You can always use something like collard greens. You can add field greens. And then I'm gonna smash and mince 1 clove of garlic to saute with the greens and a little butter. And this dish is super, super easy. Just gonna put my garlic right on top. This is a cheesy baked egg. So of course I'm using lots of eggs, a dozen. I'm gonna add a half a cup of milk, 2 cups of hand shredded sharp cheddar. That's gonna add that bite to it. And I have 2 cups of Monterey Jack, which is really, really melty. It will just smooth it out and make it nice and mellow. And hash browns, because it's all the elements of breakfast in one dish. Half a cup baking mix, and baking mix is gonna help it get nice and fluffy because it has the baking soda, the baking powder. Few pinches of kosher salt and cracked black pepper. Just wanna make sure all of the yolk is broken up. So that's done. I need to saute the garlic and the greens, kind of release some of those flavors and counteract that bitterness. Add it to my baking dish with the eggs and cheese, put it in the oven, and that's it. My skillet is nice and hot. I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I'm using unsalted butter because I've already salted my egg and cheese mixture. I don't wanna add any more salt from the butter. Ooh, garlic and butter just wakes up your senses. So I'm doing a quick saute on the greens and the garlic because it unlocks the flavor. I want a lot of that flavor to come through in the baking dish. Dump it right into the eggs and cheese. Smells amazing. I have a 9x13 baking dish here that I've buttered to make sure that when it's done baking, it comes out easily. I'm gonna pour that right in there. Not only does the mustard green give it a nice little spicy kick, but it also adds color. And the baking mix that I added is gonna make it nice and airy. I have my oven preheated to 350. I'm gonna let this bake uncovered for about 45 to 50 minutes. Oh, wow, that is gorgeous. It's puffed up, it's nice and airy, and I can tell the way the cheese is melted that it's gonna be super cheesy and gooey. I'm starting off with the bell pepper. I'm just gonna dice this up pretty finely. I'm gonna saute the bell peppers, the onions, and the garlic with my beef and Italian sausage. I'm gonna make a meat sauce with that. I'm gonna chop up my onion, and I have 2 cloves of garlic that I'm gonna mince up. All right, so I've got my onions and my bell pepper, my garlic minced up. I'm gonna come over here and fry it up. Hit my pan with some olive oil. My pot is hot. A little salt, help soften them up. The smell of something good starting, I'll tell you, as soon as oil hits garlic and onion, just unlocks all of your senses. So this is mild Italian sausage that I have here and 80-20 ground beef. And what I like to do is break down my meat so it will no longer kind of be in that sausage link form. It smells incredible in here. And my favorite part of lasagna is this stuff, the meat, the cheese, and the ricotta. I mean, I like the pasta, but if I could just eat the meat and the cheese, that's what I want to do. So my meat has browned. Now it's time to build this sauce. I have some leftover pasta sauce here. This is about 6 ounces of tomato paste. All right, I'm just gonna add just a little bit of water. I'm gonna eyeball it. Of course, we gotta season it. Some salt, pepper, a teaspoon of Sugar. Sugar helps cut the acidity. And so, I mean, my mom always added sugar in her pasta sauces. So I've been doing it ever since. A little bit of sugar goes a long way in tomato sauce. So I'm gonna let this cook down for about 5 to 10 minutes. While that's cooking down, I'm gonna make my bechamel sauce. I got 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of flour. I'm gonna add in about a cup of whole milk. And with the bechamel sauce, you definitely wanna keep whisking because you don't want it to burn at the bottom. This is starting to thicken up. I got some leftover Parmesan cheese, so I'm just gonna put that in there. And I'm gonna season this sauce. About a half a tablespoon of garlic powder, a little bit of Italian seasoning. You don't need it too much because dried herbs go a long way. Let me hit it up with a pinch of salt and some cracked black pepper. All right, so I'm gonna turn that heat off, grab my skillet, and assemble this dip. So take some of the bechamel sauce and just put it on top. I love to experiment in the kitchen. You know, I've been like that since I was younger. I think I've been like this my whole life. I just never was the type to kind of like go along with the program. I've always wanted to just do my own thing and kind of like go against the grain. Add it on the corner just like that. I'm getting all of that. All right, I got some whole milk ricotta here that I had in my fridge. I'm not gonna do anything special to this. I'm just gonna dollop it right on top. I love ricotta. Something about the flavor of it. It's gonna give it a really nice creamy texture when it cooks. That's it. All right, got some Italian blend cheese here. So when this melts, it's gonna get all bubbly. It's gonna rise up. This is gonna brown on top. It's gonna be cheesy. Last but not least, I'm going to cut up some fresh parsley just to add a little bit of greenery, a little herbiness. Oh, look at that, y'all. My oven is preheated to 375. I want to bake this until it gets golden brown. I think it'll take about 30 minutes. And I also, because I know how my lasagna likes to spill over, I have a sheet pan at the bottom there to catch any of those drippings. Got some lasagna sheets here. We're gonna make lasagna chips. Let me grab my dip. Oh, y'all. All right, let me grab a plate. I have to sit down and really enjoy the creation I just made. So I got some mayonnaise in there. I need you to add some Worcestershire, say Worcestershire.
Some brown sauce.
Some Worcestershire sauce. Got some hot sauce, got some sweet paprika, got more of that Creole seasoning.
Okay.
Got a little garlic, got some chives. I cut up some dill pickles in there. We got some Creole mustard.
Just mix it up together.
Mix them up. I am just roughly chopping a half of a red bell pepper and a green bell pepper.
Oh, that's good.
Let me be the judge.
I think I might put a little more of that in it.
Little Creole mustard.
What do you think? Make you want to dance.
Ooh.
What I always say, when I'm
told you.
cooking, have that music on. Huh? Make you put your foot in it.
All right. Well, that's good. While I go over here and get the veggies sauteed, I need you to crack 6 eggs and add that milk to it and whisk it up.
Okay. All right.
So I have a cast iron skillet here that's really hot. So to add some butter. And this is a well-seasoned cast iron skillet. So if I were to put anything in there, it wouldn't stick anyway, but just like to add a little bit of fat to it. Add my onion and pepper. I'm just gonna let this cook down until it gets slightly softened. I am going to grab some of this salt from you and help release some of this moisture in the veggies. So while this sautés down, I'm gonna get started on my house seasoning. Equal parts, sweet paprika, some garlic powder, teaspoon of onion powder, a little black pepper.
About a pinch of salt.
About a teaspoon of salt, yeah. Okay. Let me check on my veggies.
Okay.
You know what? Because I have to cook the andouille sausage, I'm gonna add that in there right now too. We use sausage a lot in our recipes in the Gullah community. We use a smoked sausage, which is pretty much similar, just andouille sausage is a little bit more spicy. Can you do me a favor? Can you put some of that house seasoning on the shrimp?
Sure.
You want that flavor in every bite. So when you bite into the sausage, it's like a burst of flavor. When you bite into the shrimp, it's gonna be a burst of flavor. And I'm just cooking this until the sausage gets a little brown. Okay, so that looks great. Let's add the shrimp now.
When I say it smells so good, I can't wait.
Is it saying something to you?
Ooh, it's like, oh, eat me.
These are medium-sized shrimp, so it's gonna take about 3 to 4 minutes until it turns opaque. Adding in my clove of garlic. The shrimp look just about done. Pour the eggs in.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn the heat down. The thing about eggs, you don't have to cook them on high heat. Just fold it in. You want more big fluffy clouds than overly scrambled eggs. That's one thing I can't stand. Overly scrambled egg. Let's turn the heat off. Take the cheese.
What kind of cheese is that?
White cheddar. All right, so I have my oven set to broil. Just wanna pop this in here for a few seconds until the cheese melts.
Yeah, I see the cheese melting.
Ooh, Ma, look at that.
How pretty is that?
Drizzle it with a little bit of this Creole sauce. Put some of the green onion on top.
Okay. How pretty is that?
I'm shredding about 1 cup of white cheddar, and I'm all about building flavors, even if it's in a dip. I want to get some of that creamy sharpness from the white cheddar and that nutty richness from the Asiago cheese, and I'm making sure I don't scrape my fingers. Ooh, that looks beautiful. I'm gonna use 8 ounces of room temp cream cheese. If you use cold, you'll get little clumps of cream cheese throughout your dip. You don't want that to happen. A 1/2 cup mayo, a 1/2 cup of sour cream, and the sour cream is gonna add some tanginess that I think works really well with that sharp cheddar. About that much heavy cream, a tablespoon lemon juice, and that's like 1/2 a lemon. Drop in this cheddar and Asiago cheese. I love the smell of fresh crab meat, and I'm using claw meat because I really want the crab to be the star of the show. It's sweet, and it's gonna push through all the sharpness and the creaminess of the cheeses. I'm getting into this now, okay? I'm gonna add in some seafood seasoning. Gotta add a little hot sauce to this. It's gonna be really flavorful with a little kick of heat. Fold it in and see, and this is why I said it was so important to have room temp ingredients. Because look how that's just effortlessly folding together. Okay, next step, transfer it into this 1-quart baking dish and pop it in the oven. Oh, wow. And you know what? I wanna add some more cheese on top. Just spread that on top. This looks great. I'm gonna pop this in the oven. I have it preheated to 400 degrees. I'm gonna bake it for 20 to 25 minutes. I think my crab dip is done. Woo! Hot mama! Look at that. The guys are gonna love this. Get into it. How about that crab dip?
It's awesome. We're gonna patent that.
I have cooked 1 pound of elbow macaroni till it's al dente. That means it still has a little bite to it. You don't want to overcook your noodles because it'll get really soggy in the oven because you have to continue to cook it in the oven. So you want to cook it till it's just al dente. That means it's still a little stiff. 1 stick of unsalted melted butter. I have 6 eggs. The first thing I ever learned how to make by myself was my grandma's macaroni and cheese. I was at my sister's house, and you guys have probably heard the story before. We were all cooking, and like everyone has to make their own dish. So they assigned me macaroni and cheese. Little did they know I'd never cooked before, but at least by myself without adult supervision. And I said, I'll make the macaroni and cheese. And I'm like, oh Lord, how do I make the macaroni and cheese? I called my grandma. I was like, Grandma, I'm making your macaroni and cheese. What do I need to put in it? Well, she's like, well, who's letting you cook in that kitchen? I said, Arlene. And she said, okay, well, if you have to make it, put a little egg and evaporated milk. The canned milk is what she called it, canned milk. And if they have some of that heavy cream around, if you want it a little richer, you use the heavy cream and you season your noodles and stuff with salt, pepper, garlic powder, and you shred up your cheese. So I just remember what she said, and I remembered what I watched basically my entire childhood. And I just prayed to the gods above. Please just guide me through this macaroni and cheese because I don't want them to talk about me. So I made the macaroni and cheese and it was a hit. A hit. So I've been making it this way ever since. I do have my other versions, but this right here is my go-to. So I have 6 eggs in this bowl that I've combined with 2 cans of evaporated milk, a teaspoon of garlic powder, seasoned with a little salt and pepper. I like a lot of freshly cracked black pepper. Pour my egg and milk mixture into my casserole dish that I've sprayed with nonstick spray and my noodles. Give it a mix. And remember, I have that melted butter in there as well. Okay. 2 cups of heavy cream. Have some cubed sharp cheddar here. Now, back when my grandmother used to make this, and I would be her little helper, she wouldn't let me cut the cheese, but she would let me like put the cheese from her cutting board into a bowl, and she'll turn around and she's like, well, did you put the cheese in the bowl? And by the time she turns around, the cheese was gone. I would eat this. That was my duty. Hand shredded extra sharp cheddar cheese, about 1.5 pounds. That extra sharp gives it a little extra tang. The trick to making creamy and cheesy Southern baked macaroni and cheese is to make sure that your noodles are swimming in milk and cheese. You don't want to see any exposed noodles. No naked noodles. Before I cover this, I'm going to sprinkle with more cheese on top to get a nice even layer of cheese. This looks incredible. I have my oven preheated to 350. I'm gonna bake this off for about 40 minutes or until it gets nice and bubbly in the inside, and then I'm gonna take the foil off and let it cook for an additional 10 to 15 minutes or until the top is browned. And what I also like to do is spray my aluminum foil with a little nonstick spray so that cheese doesn't stick. That's a trick Grandma taught me. Oh my goodness. My grandmother is gonna be proud of me. Now that's how you bake a macaroni and cheese. So I have a box of elbow pasta. You can't go wrong with elbow pasta. I'm going to boil this for 7 minutes until it's al dente. It's gonna cook in the oven. So if you overcook your pasta on top of the stove, you're gonna have some really mushy macaroni and cheese, and you don't want that. All right, so I'm gonna let this boil, and I got some cheese to shred. All right, so I have sharp cheddar and extra sharp cheddar. Instead of using pre-shredded cheese, I just like to shred my own. Old school is the way to go. This shredded cheese will be the base of my cheese sauce. Right, let me pause, my pasta is ready. Right, so I rinsed it with some cold water to stop the cooking process and just setting it back there. Gotta finish up with this cheese. So what I do is just eyeball it. All right, and I'm using the extra sharp cheddar to cut into small cubes. I'll add the cubes right before it goes in the oven. Gotta make a cheese sauce. I'm gonna head over to my stove. I am making a cheese sauce. The fancy term for it would be a bechamel, which is a roux. It's basically gonna thicken up my cheese sauce. So I have a 1/2 stick of unsalted butter. I'm gonna add to this a few pinches of flour. My grandmother never measured this. She just put it in there. So now I'm gonna add 2 cups of whole milk, a 1/2 cup of heavy cream. Bring this to a rolling boil. It should slightly thicken up as the heat rises. I'm gonna add my sharp cheddar cheese now. I reserved a little bit because I like to top it right before I put it in the oven. This is the consistency I want. Almost like a nacho cheese consistency. Okay, my grandmother does not use cream cheese, but I like using cream cheese because cream cheese just adds a slight tang. I'm gonna add a pinch of salt, pepper, and garlic. Just added my garlic powder. I'm gonna add some freshly cracked black pepper and a pinch of salt. You don't want to over salt your macaroni and cheese. All right, I'm gonna take it over here. I'm gonna put my elbow pasta in my pot. I'm gonna do all the mixing in this pot. Grab my spoon back here. You hear that? You hear that? You know you got some good macaroni and cheese. Whoo, look at this, y'all. Woo-hoo. All right, so last but not least, I'm gonna add in 2 eggs. I'm gonna whisk it in there with my sour cream. My grandmother doesn't put sour cream. I find that sour cream just elevates that tanginess from the extra sharp cheddar, so I like using that sour cream in there. And this is what makes Southern macaroni and cheese different from other macaroni and cheeses. It's the egg. It's what's gonna hold the macaroni and cheese together. Because essentially, macaroni and cheese is a casserole. Fold in the egg. I have a 9x13 casserole dish that I put some melted butter in there. Just gonna pour that directly to my casserole dish. So now it's the time to add the cube extra sharp cheddar. Last but not least, the reserved sharp cheddar. All right, so I have my oven preheated to 350. I'm gonna bake this uncovered until it gets slightly golden brown on top and all the cheese has melted. Once that happens, I'm gonna get some foil and loosely cover it with foil and bake it for an additional 15 minutes to cook the center. Okay. I'm pulling out my macaroni and cheese. Ooh, I tell you, it smells delicious. You wanna see it? Look. Look at that. It looks like my grandma's. It actually looks a little better. It looks good. Grandma, you didn't hear that. Yours is still good.
Oh, this smells amazing.
All right, y'all ready to dig in?
Yes. The mac and cheese is amazing.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
creamy and cheesy. Wow.